Hi, welcome back to the long and short of it podcast. I'm Jaacob Bowden, professional golfer and explorer.
And I'm Jennifer Giroux. And this is not a golf podcast, right?
It's not a golf podcast.
So what are we going to do today? What are we diving into?
Although we are starting from the conversation starters are from golf, but then yes, it doesn't go golf. We skew away from golf.
Yeah.
So there's 80 cards, just as a reminder, there's 80 cards here. We got topics things that have happened over the course of my golf career, some cool things over the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Most of the people in the golf world maybe know some of the golf things that happen, but they don't know the behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
Jen's been here since I turned pro in 2003. You've been here since 2004.
Yeah.
So you've seen almost the entire thing. So, and we'll use these as prompts to dive into something deeper and more fun.
Find the iceberg.
I got 80 cards. I've got 30 of them filled out so far, but it's certainly enough to get going. So why don't you pick a card, and then we'll use that and then if you want to talk about it, we can. If we can come up with something else, we can do that too.
Yeah. All right. I like it. So this card said, Phil Reed's in search of the greatest golf swing. And this is fun because I know Phil. Phil's been a part of your life and your golf journey for a long time and has become a dear friend to us. We've stayed at his house out in California numerous times and spent time with his family. And I think when I see this card, for me, what immediately comes up is when I first met you back in 2004, you had already been featured in Phil's book. Can you say a little bit more? So In Search of the Greatest Golf Swing, that's his book that he wrote, correct?
Yes. So going back to, I'm originally from the St. Louis area, a small town called Barnhart, about 25 miles south of St. Louis, 5,000 people. And so I was very much from the Midwest, went to college there. And then when I got to worked a corporate job for Kansas City, and then when I first moved out to California, it was either going to be Florida or California, and I knew one person in California, so I moved out to California, and then it was Southern California, Los Angeles. So for a person coming from the Midwest, all of a sudden going to all these places where all these movies are filmed and like it's the entertainment industry's out there. It was pretty exciting for someone from the Midwest in the flyover states.
Yeah.
So I had just started my journey January 2003, and then I got taken under the wing of this guy named Mike Austin. And Mike Austin, interestingly, I had read about him in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, my mom would make me I'd either have to take a nap for several hours or I could read a book. So a lot of times I would read the Guinness Book of World Records. And I remember reading about Mike Austin.
Yeah.
So I'm out in LA now. We have a cat running around.
We have two cats.
Oh yeah, they're both here.
Yeah.
So for someone in the Midwest to be out in this culture of Hollywood, basically, and then to be right when I started my golf journey, I had the good fortune to get taken under the wing of this guy that I read about in the Guinness Book of World Records.
That's so cool.
So and I started to have really, really rapid success. I was a average golfer, 14 index golfer, basically just an average golfer when I was first starting in January. By July, I turned pro, and a lot of this I attribute to there was a lot of things I was doing, but a lot of this was attributed to being taken under the wing of this Mike Austin guy, 64-year-old guy who hit a 515-yard drive in 1974, old technology, older guy. And then, so this guy he lived out in the LA area, I got to meet him. And then Phil Reed, which is what the card was about, he was in the process of writing a book about Mike called In Search of the Greatest Golf Swing. And I got my first professional check in July after starting in January. I won a $5,000 check. It was a televised event. It was just such a super, super cool experience. And as I was coming back from one of my driving trips, I would drive around and I'd sleep in my old Camry. I couldn't afford to stay in hotels, so I'd pull out the front seat and I'd either sleep in the car or I bought a tent and I'd just sleep on the side of the road, really, in a sleeping bag. So Phil heard about the success that I was having, and he got in touch with me in October, I think. I'd have to look up the date, but he was like, "Hey, this is Phil Reed. I'm writing a book about Mike Austin. Do you want to get together and be interviewed for it?" So I guess to me, this makes me think about a lot of serendipity for having taken the courage to make a leap from being a corporate job at 27, a safe corporate job in the Midwest, and having safety and security, and then taking this leap to pursue this crazy dream. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, I'm getting interviewed for a chapter of a book. So I was just kind of like, I don't know, over the moon, this guy being from the Midwest, and like now I'm featured in a book, and like, yeah, it was really, so that's kind of what that makes me think about. Like, and then we met just maybe a month or so after I got interviewed for Phil's book. So I'd just been interviewed. The book hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was a lot.
It was a lot, sorry.
But I think like that's thank you for that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they need to provide a little context to it.
Yeah. But I think you know, when we talk about
it was a lot.
It was a lot. And it's funny because as you're sharing it, I know the whole story, so I know all of those like contours. So as you're sharing it, and you're talking to me and sharing, you know, the context with everybody who's tuning in. So I'd say like that's the tip of the iceberg, but what sits underneath that. And we talk a lot about this over the years, you know, because both you and I are risk takers. And, you know, all right, let's move over there. Let's try this. Let's pivot here. And there's this thing that one of our life coach, spiritual teachers has shared with us. And it always stays with me. It's like, you know, she would call it like the spirit wink. Like, look, some people call it signs. But when you're making a big leap, you look for the little moments, things, signs that you're on the right path or that you're supported. And what's so cool about what you just shared is, I always forget about that part that you read the Guinness Book of World Records as a kid, and you saw Mike Austin, and then
I get to meet this guy that I read about in a book as a kid.
Well, he becomes this like critical node or part of your path, your emergence in this totally radically new career. And I just think that aspect of those connections, you call it serendipity, but you're embarking on this radically new thing. What did that feel like for you in those first few weeks, months? You cashed in everything. You left a job, you left a life, you left an identity, and then you have these little threads that are almost seemingly like supporting you, like, hey, you've done the right thing. Is that what it felt like, or? It
was challenging and scary and difficult. So I had already, from 22 to 27, I'd saved up maybe $20,000 already, because I didn't know what I was going to be doing after that, and I put $20,000 into retirement already because I knew about
retirement. That's so funny. You made a joke.
Was aware of compound interest. So it was like, all right,
couldn't do retirement anymore. Yeah.
But I took I instead of like having that compound or the retirement going to just sit there and accrue over 20 or 30 years, I bet that on myself. So that was like,
so true.
That was a lot, that was really scary to do.
Yeah.
And so and it was scary to leave. I had a girlfriend at the time. I left a girlfriend. I left friends, family. I'd never lived anywhere outside of like the Midwest there. So I didn't know anyone. So there was a lot of like fear and scare. Like, what am I doing? Am I ruining my life here? Like, and
I feel like we've asked that question numerous times over our 20 years together. Like, did we make the wrong turn? Or, like, did we just blow up everything?
But then you get these
little signs that are like, that feel like
it's like
you're on the right track.
There's no way that that's just coincidence. Like there are these little things that says,
chills.
All right,
chills.
We'll keep it going here. You're on the right track. It may seem not logical or it's not the traditional path that you're. But it was like what I was feeling inside. I was getting like this internal thing of like, go this direction. Yeah. And it just doesn't make sense to go that direction, but I felt like I was supposed to. So to get these like,
you had a retirement fund.
So these little winks like this of like one meeting Mike Austin, but then Phil, who's become a friend of ours now over the years, and to just. I wouldn't have been featured, and we know now. Like I don't know. Like at the time, this little Midwestern kid is like enamored with these things. And now I think from all the spiritual work and growth work that we've done, like we don't like put people on pedestals as much and those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, the a lot of fear and a lot of like. Maybe illogical thing, but it was the internal thing, and then you get all these signs that it's like, yes, keep going.
Well, and I think you sort of need that too when you make a big, So for anybody like that's tuning in, if you've made a big bet, you made a big pivot, you've done something, you kind of need a few things in a way. Maybe it's like mental gymnastics, but you need some signs, some wink from the universe, for some, whatever you want to call it, in order to kind of encourage you to keep going forward. Because I think now when I look at this book, Phil Reed's In Search of the Greatest Golf Swing, it's almost like for you is like in search of the greatest life or the greatest adventure.
For me, it was in search of myself.
In search of yourself. And I just think about the beautiful serendipity of, I mean, obviously you're naturally like athletic, but, I always kind of say with golf, it's like, you're hitting a very small ball with a stick that you're trying to swing very fast, and just the chances alone of striking that ball perfectly, I mean, that's why the sport sort of becomes frustratingly addictive, because when you experience that, you're like, oh, that was cool. Like, what are the chances of that? And you do it all the time. But I think to do something that required so much precision and all of the other aspects, and then to meet Mike Austin and to meet Dan Schager and these two individuals who were able to also teach you a method of swinging that really connected to your power, because you're a very strong, powerful person. And I think power in your career, power in swing speed, power in distance has been a big part of it. So I think even about the serendipity of meeting those two people that also connected to the power that you have in your body and also in your spirit was quite special. So I love that also that Phil was a part of that too, because he's such a wonderful person.
Phil's a lovely person.
He's a lovely, Phil, if you're watching, you are an amazing, wonderful person, and we adore you and are so grateful for you. And And I just think like that somebody like that, when he also was exploring golf, you know, so like you and Phil were both exploring.
Part of the premise of this book is Phil at the time was 55, and he had never hit a 300-yard drive, which if you're not a golfer, the average amateur golfer might hit 220 yards. So
gosh, that'd be amazing if I hit a 220-yard drive.
So part of the thing was this 300-yard mark. You have all the people on the internet comments that everyone's hit the 300-yard drive.
Power, distance, yeah.
But the actual reality of it is like it's a rare feat. And then so Phil was like curious, can I do this thing at an older age and do it? And then so it was also his search. He was like searching for this mystical thing.
Yes.
And then in his own listening to what was going on inside for him, he was drawn to Mike Austin.
Yeah.
And then same thing for me. I was listening to my own internal voice, and it drew me to California. And then I got drawn to Mike Austin.
Yeah.
And then we got drawn together. And then, interesting, you know, spoiler alert, Phil was able in his mid-50s to like have multiple 300-yard drives.
That's
and
right.
It was in part due to Mike Austin, but in part due to other things as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so both of us were kind of
Never
like,
thought about it like that before. Actually, you know, usually when I think about that, I just think about your serendipity. I think about, you know, how those initial weeks, months, that first year just kind of was a banger year. You just like came out the freaking gate swinging, you know, and life just met you there and said, okay, like, you know, and I know that the journey's been.
Meanwhile, by that point, I had gone through all the money that I'd saved.
Yes.
So I was running out of money too. So like, so I'm like, I just blew up my life. What did I do? So to get that little win,
a retirement fund
at that moment, it was so important to like, to validate, like, keep going.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and I never thought about how Phil was on his own growth journey, right? And I sometimes forget about that he was also embarking on his own feat. And I think about that with, I'm sure myself and anybody tuning in, you know, what is life but without growth? And what is life but without some of the big, bold things that you pursue? And yeah, sure, for some people saying, you know, oh, he's, you know, 50-year-old guy trying to get a 300-year drive, but that's not a big deal. But, you know, we create these goals and these sort of mountains to climb, and they can open up so much. And so I think with like Phil in the pursuit of this, he writes this book. It is serendipitously.
This was chronicling his
journey,
his own search as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that aspect of when we embark on a growth journey, which in search of the greatest golf swing, as I think about it now, and we unpack this and we dig into the lower contours of this iceberg, I think about it's your growth journey. It's the beginning of your growth journey. It's Phil's growth journey.
You know, to be honest, also, it was probably, for Mike Austin, he was in his 90s at the time. And he'd been in the Guinness records and like, but he was rough around the edges. And he was, he didn't have a lot of tact, I think, and he was very ego driven. So he rubbed a lot of people off the wrong way. So this for him also, I don't know what it was for him. He's since passed. So, but
that's interesting.
Getting to meet him, and it's like, all right, he's had a stroke. He's paralyzed now. He's in his 90s.
Yeah.
So for him, having Phil come along, it's kind of like a little bit of a legacy thing for him. And
That's
then
true.
To have me come along and
it's young, bright,
this young person starting out a little bit more in life. So maybe this was a way for him to pass on knowledge to another person.
Well, and was Dan Schauger in the book?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and
Dan Schauger, he had
then
a chapter also.
Yeah, and Dan, like, he took you on as a student in the early, right? Wasn't that a part of, like, he had never taught anybody? Was he teaching people?
So Dan Schauger.
What do you think it was for him?
When he and I met in January, a month, this was another little serendipitous thing. A month after I moved out there, I was kind of on my own. I was just practicing, trying things. And then he came up one day to the driving range. He had just retired from the movie industry. So again, this is like, the Midwestern kid in me, or young man in me. It was like, wow, he's like, worked on the set of Little House on the Prairie, and like I watched that show as a kid, and like now I get to meet this guy, and
yeah, it's such a big world.
And he had just
right.
retired from that, and he was thinking about trying to see if he could.
Oh, that's right.
Make it on the senior tour. So he was there that one day.
Story.
And we were the only people on the driving range, and the winds from the Santa Anas were just blowing like crazy.
Yeah.
And I tried to take a swing, and I got blown back, and I would have hit him. But he got blown back too, so we just kind of like remarked on each other's like, we're the only ones out here practicing in this.
Yeah.
And then we got to talking, and then he was like, wow, this is really cool what you're trying to do. Let me help you, because he was the bridge to Mike Austin.
Right.
So he was also there for.
He's on his growth journey.
He was retiring.
Yes.
He was in his 60s and curious, like, hey, can I make it as a professional golfer now? And he had taught, and he had been under the wing of Mike Austin also. So it was just like all of these people were in their own ways responding to what their internal, you say curiosity a lot, which I really like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, what are you curious about? It's not like, what are you passionate about? It's like, what do you, because it's like there's so much pressure finding the passion, like the one thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, all right, what are you curious about right now?
Yeah.
I love how you say that.
Yeah, it's what you're curious about, and then like it's like a whisper too, until it becomes like a scream. Like, you got to go do this, But it's like,
if you don't answer to it, you get life will knock you up on the head. It
keeps knocking you, like when you're called to shift and to venture and to discover the new. But I just love that. I think that's so, sort of as we kind of unpack and like look at this book, In Search of the Greatest Golf Swing, and all of the different, sort of threads that came together, and the individuals within that who are all pursuing or encountering some, sort of self-discovery or personal, sort of pursuit. I think that's, and just what that all meant for you, for Dan, for Mike, for Phil. And I think that's like really beautiful, because I never really thought about, again, my prism is you. And so sometimes I forget that there's these other threads that people are always also growing. And I think that's like one of the things I want to sort of like maybe close on is.
Yeah, what's the long and short of this here?
Well, I guess for me, on the surface, it's like, you said at the very top when you were kind of unpacking the story, like there was a lot of serendipity. And sure, there was serendipity, but I feel like there was also a lot of destiny, and there was listening to the whisper, or maybe it's a scream, to go after a new or big goal that might unlock a new life.
For each of those people, it was going against the grain of maybe something with. Yeah. It was just, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but go ahead.
No, I mean, you're going against the grain, right? So so I think for me, it's just like what we see of like this book that is this own individual's journey in search of the greatest golf swing really is also a story about not only his own pursuit to achieve this 300-yard, drive, but it's also interwoven with, so many other different individuals who are pursuing their own, who are climbing their own mountains. In a way, you all kind of like come together on one, sort of track. And I think, so this aspect, we kind of say serendipity, but I think it's deeper than that. It's listening And it's also seeing and appreciating the signs, and also appreciating that when other players, individuals come and join you on that track for a moment, that climb up a certain part of the mountain, that it's kind of like life's not only way of supporting each other, but yeah, just like the deeper beauty of pursuit of these big objectives. So I don't know. That's like a really inarticulate way of kind of unpacking like what to me is like really resonated as we. What is it for you? What's the long and short of it for you? I feel like that was just really long. So I don't know. I still got to work on this long and short of it thing.
I think for me,
I feel like I need ChatGPT to be like, what's the long and short of what I just said?
Yeah,
and it'd be like something amazing. And I'd be like, oh my God, I love that. So insightful.
Yeah, make this a little bit, tighten it up here, make it more concise.
Yeah.
I think the long and short of it for me was that there seems, and we can get into this in another episode, but like there seems to be like there's free will in this experience that we're having, but there's also
I know where you're going.
A little bit of a roadmap that each of us has.
Yeah.
And it all seems to be interwoven and interconnected, and maybe we feel alone sometimes, but like we're actually part of something, I don't know, larger.
Ooh.
And
that's the long and short of it.
It's and the way.
Good job.
What to do with that though is, and maybe finding your purpose is just listening to that voice, having the courage to listen to the voice inside, even if it means you're going against something that's ageist or what society says you should do or whatever. Listen to your own internal voice. That's where the answers of where you need to be, even if it's tough, are what will lead you on the path that you're supposed to be on, and it'll be interconnected with a lot of other people, I think. So I don't know. That's maybe one thing that like kind of pops out to me first, like what's the long and short of it.
Well, and like when you do that, life rewards you with all of these little things that present itself as serendipity, right?
Right, when things get tough, you might get this.
You meet the right
one
person
sign that you need to keep going.
And it's like, okay, maybe I'll stay the course.
Right.
And I'm experiencing that all the time right now. But I think that is, and when you don't listen and when you don't follow that, then you probably just get banged on the head continuously until you start doing it.
I think life will
find a way to kind of keep, reminding until
nudge you in the direction.
I think
you're supposed
Oprah
to go.
talked about that on like Super Soul Sunday. This is years ago. There she was, it comes at you with a whisper until it's a scream, you know? And, but I think that's really a beautiful way. So thank you, Phil. And thank you.
Thank you too.
I always love growing with you and like unpacking these things with you. So
yes,
I really, it's kind of funny when I pulled this. I was like, oh gosh, where is this conversation going to take us? So it's really beautiful. It's a really great way of carrying these ideas forward in the day.
It went right where it was supposed to go.
Okay, that's enough.
All right, so we have a call-in number, right?
Yes. We got a 313 number because we're in Detroit. 313, I don't have my glasses on.
356-6830. So we...
Oh my God, please call in. Let's just call in and I don't know, do you have something to share that's maybe relatable? Did this resonate? Is there something that's whispering in your ear and you haven't made the leap and you want to... I don't know. I think that'd be really fun to hear from people.
If you're in a place where this is on a visual medium like YouTube, leave some comments. It'd be fun to read like what your stories are that are related to this.
Yeah. Or you can send us private messages too.
Call in, leave a voice message. I think maybe around episode 4 we'll start like listening to some of these. We'll do another one like this
every day.
So if people want to support the podcast, what can they do? Or us, what could they do?
Well, they subscribe to the podcast. They tune in, they watch. I don't know. I love community, so, be part. I think that's one thing. You can also, if you are a golfer or you're curious about golf, Good luck. No. You can check out Jaacob's Swingman Golf platform, which has a bunch of learning tools. You can learn how to swing faster, longer, all of the things, right?
Got some info about Mike Austin too, for those that are interested in that.
Yes. And then what else?
And then I'm a pro golfer, so golfers are like a little bit like billboards. Today I have my highly professional business cat shirt on. I'm not
sponsored by the cats.
Yeah,
no,
sponsored by highly professional business cats.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you want to
support the journey in some way,
in some form of sponsorship, just feel free to reach out.
Yeah. All right. That's the long and short of it.
That's the long and short of it. We'll see you for the next episode.
Bye.